Let's get busy.
Podcast night, Baxter's 942 in the Highlands, my home away from home. It is their 1940 Tuesdays where they do this 1942 tequila thing. Are you a tequila fan, Michael?
I'm a margarita fan.
Which is tequila's in it.
That's correct. Yeah. I've been known to partake in those spirits from time to time, yes.
Welcome, my friend.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
You sporting a nice little tan.
I am. Just came back from Key West, so soaked up some of those South Florida rays. It was an amazing weekend. So
There was a reason why you went down there.
It was. I like to tell people that I was born approximately 3 weeks. If you believe in the moon landing, as I do, I was born about 3 weeks after the man on the moon in 1969, so I turned 50 on Saturday.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, my girlfriend.
You're halfway there.
If I'm blessed enough to see 100, which some of that is in my family, so yeah, I'm halfway home, man. It's been a good 50 years.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Moon landing, you pre-show, pre-recording, you talk NASA. We're going to talk some things that maybe you can clarify for me that
Sure.
are on the more conspiracy level, but we'll do that a little later.
Nothing to do with storming Area 51.
Yeah,
but yes.
yeah, exactly. You and I connected on Facebook, as I do with most of my guests, and you're into something that's very cool, very positive. You know, in this day and age where there's a lot of hate, people are short-triggered. Is that right? Short-triggered.
Short-tempered, short-triggered, yeah.
And you're
emotions are at a high level, I think, for a lot of people.
People are a little testy too soon. They don't, they're, I don't know. We can, politics, or we can go there, but I'm not going to go there now. But anyways, this project you're involved with, Smile Project Louisville, which, I've seen the Facebook page, a lot of the pictures, videos you've put out there. Give us what is it? What and why?
Yeah. So I was at a point in my life, as a lot of people do, I started thinking seriously about what is my legacy, what footprint am I leaving on other people. And April of 2018, I had been in the mortgage industry for about 20 years, and I knew I was at a point in which I was going to lose my job. So what was the next step for me? And I wanted to make a difference. I had already started thinking about things and ways of how to inspire others and help people. So I happened to be in the drive-thru at Wendy's. And as I'd gone around, the impression of the person in the window made a difference in my day.
What was that impression?
It just, the interaction. The interaction, obviously, when you're sitting in a drive-thru at any fast food restaurant, it's short, but yet was smiling, was upbeat, had a lot of energy. I had a horrible morning. So, of course, I'm trying to process a lot of those emotions. And then that interaction, at that point in time, I knew it was going to change my day. So I'd actually pulled away and parked. And I had a moment, and I'm like, God, what are you trying to do to me at this point? Are you talking to me? So I waited a couple of minutes for the cars to all pull through. And then when no one was there, I get out of the car, and I walk back to the window, and she's like, what's wrong? And I said, nothing. I said, I feel like I need to tell you the impression that you left on me. And then we talked for maybe a minute, and I said, I don't know.
At the window.
At the window. I'm standing at the window. Thankfully, no other cars.
I was going to say, you're someone sitting there for a minute.
Slightly gangster, and she was laughing, and I said,
they're going, he's going to rob her.
I said, I don't know why, but I feel compelled to ask you to take a picture. She goes, what? You want to take a picture with me? I said, I do. I said, but I want to be smiling. So We took a picture together.
About when is this?
This was early April of 2018.
Okay, last year.
So took a picture with her, and I had no idea at that point what I was going to do, and I immediately made a phone call to my girlfriend, and I kind of went through what I had just experienced and what I had done. And of course, she laughed at me. She laughs at me. But, the second piece with it is I also have a daughter with Down syndrome, and she's nonverbal. So the way she communicates to me, primarily, even though when I say nonverbal, she's like 98, 99% nonverbal. She does say a few words here, there are no, yes, and things. But yet, primarily when I ask her, Maddie, do you love Daddy? And she just smiles all the time. So it took a couple of weeks, but I said, hey, I think I can start having a profound impact on others through, my relationship with my daughter and how she's changed me, tying in that the interaction that I had with someone at Wendy's.
Right.
So I made a decision at that point that I was going to start smiling with strangers.
That's an interesting take.
And you have to be able to embrace that you can approach anyone and everyone. Yeah. And as it started, I started doing that. So I took pictures for probably the better part of 4 or 5 weeks at that point, and might have accumulated 15, 20, pictures with random people. And then that's when it hit me going, okay, I'm going to do a smile project. And the name, it's not like it's a project in which it has a definitive ending.
Right, yeah.
And then I thought...
But I'm curious. Well, continue.
Yeah, so I thought long and hard and going, okay, I'm going to tie in the city of Louisville, and look, it's not some glamorous name, but just Smile Project Louisville. So I started considering going, okay, how do we make it look? How do we make it feel? And then going, okay, I'm going to have a presence on social media, and started kind of building it out and growing it from there.
It's an interesting epiphany. I don't know
because when I tell you, and as I look back, when I tell you the randomness early on of the pictures, I made decisions to take pictures with people in the sauna, half clothed. I jumped in swimming pools. No matter, I was at a stoplight and two guys were biking, and I rolled the window down and got out, and again, and you have to be quick a lot of times when you're approaching strangers and you're trying to, give them an impression to where they feel opened up, comfortable enough, in what you're doing.
You wearing the shirt would probably help.
One of the shirts.
No,
and those did not exist. Yeah. From a branding perspective, as far as T-shirts, they just came about a few weeks ago when we did the Bats game. I had a hat, but I had nothing. So when I approached people, I introduced myself. I said, hey, what I'm trying to do in the community is really spread a level of positivity and love by changing attitudes and behaviors with smiling with random people. Yeah. So I started posting the pictures, and then shortly what starts happening is you start getting comments. You start getting direct messages from people to where you've kind of put enough out there where you've dripped on them over a course of a period of time. And then as my page grew, people I don't even know, and they're commenting and going, hey, I just want you to know that, this picture made my morning. I needed this. I needed to see smiling faces. I look forward to what you post and who you post with on a regular basis.
April, I'm looking at it. You created the page in April of 2018. Over 1,800 people are currently liking, following.
Yeah. and It's all grassroots. I was probably more open to accepting friend requests too on my personal page again, and having an impact there, where before I think a lot of people are very selective in who they open up. But when you're really trying to do something much bigger than yourself, you open it up, and I started accepting friends. When I say accepting anybody, I really wanted them to be local or in Kentucky, because that's kind of where the first impressions that I was having and trying to really make a difference was locally.
Now, I got to go back. When you first started this, what were some of the crazy reactions? Because I'm sure you had some people that were like, yes, I'll smile, let's do it. But then there had to be someone that looked you dead in the eye.
Well, and you know what? That doesn't change. I had one just recently that not every Kroger's has this in town. And I happened to be, I first noticed it in a Kroger's on the West End. And I didn't do anything. I actually took a picture of myself, because occasionally I will take a picture of myself being an absolute goober, getting weird. I do embrace being silly to try to raise the spirits of people. But I noticed that they had video cameras above these self-checkout machines. So I took a picture of myself, and I got a lot of positive response. So it was about a month later, and I happened to be at the Kroger's in the Highlands. And I was at the self-checkout, and I turned and looked. And they always at the Kroger's, they have somebody standing there to help you in case you need it. So I turned and I said, hey, come over here real quick. And she walked over there. And she goes, what can I do for you? And I said, look up. And she looks up in the camera, and I was just the biggest goober. And then she made the biggest smile. And I took a picture. She goes, what are you doing? And made the greatest face, because you're in the moment.
Right.
And then I pulled out one of my business cards that I had created, and then again I went into my spiel and said, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do. I'm trying to make a difference in people's lives, and I would appreciate it if I could share the moment we just had with people who follow me. So she got really excited and said yes, and then, next thing you know, what you see is you post it, you see the other comments, and then you see the person's life that you affected in that moment start to comment and say other things about what you're doing, and going, I'm so glad that you touched me that day.
When you take pictures, obviously you're at a certain point, you've got the pictures and you're going to post them.
That's correct.
Are you asking them, like, are they on Facebook?
I am asking for the permission. That's correct. Because
not just permission, but are you tagging them?
So what I basically, so my intent also is to become friends on social media with them, so I can tag them, so my reach obviously can extend to their audience as well. Yeah. But I have, early on, I was running on the treadmill at the Y, and this lady next to me was getting her sweat on too. And then as I'm jamming to the music, I turned a couple of times, and I gave her high fives and gave her knucks, and she just keeps laughing. And then I stop, and I'm like, and I pulled my camera out to take a picture. She goes, oh, hell no. And I was like, what? I'm like, come on, girl. She goes, I look filthy. That's not going on social media. Because I've only had 2 cases. And I've probably taken 400 or 500 pictures now, but I've only had 2 cases. She was one. And I had one other situation where someone else said no. And I happened to be, again, in the Highlands, and I was walking into Buckhead's on Bardstown Road, and as I'm getting ready to walk in, there was like 6 75, 80-year-old senior citizen females, and they were all dressed alike. And they had hats and everything on. I'm like, these are great ladies. I want to get in the middle of them and, take a picture.
Not nuns.
No, they were not nuns. I had enough of that in my childhood. But they were like, no, we don't do social media. And usually, at that point, I try to spin it and the positivity and things like that. But again, they were not wanting their mugs on social media. So
there are the few.
There are the few. But I at times I do try to think of the unique situations and where I'm at in the city, and not that, again, meeting somebody in Kroger's doesn't have an impact. But as I move around the city, the uniqueness of of a picture,
This, your daughter helped inspire this.
Oh, most certainly.
Now,
Most
I'm
certainly.
curious, do you show her these pictures? Does she see them? And has she grasped the notion that,
No.
she's kind of the reason?
I haven't. No, I've
Okay.
shared with her.
Yeah.
She's the reason. Even though she again is primarily nonverbal, she comprehends.
Yeah.
So I do have those conversations with her and talk about. I tell her things like, "Your daddy's favorite." And I have 3 other kids, and I love them dearly. But I'm like, don't tell even though she can't talk, don't tell your brothers and sisters now. You're my favorite, and I love you more than them. And she just laughs and gets all giddy. And
I love that.
part of it too, as we go through life, is that early on in this process, and I haven't shared this with many people, but I needed that smile too. I needed that
Well, you
social.
said
I needed that social interaction. I needed to be with other humans that enjoyed being silly, laughing, and smiling.
You still need it.
Of course,
Yeah.
I do.
We all do.
Yeah.
I mean, it something honestly that small in as far as effort and time, the impact can be huge. It really is.
It's heartfelt, and again, the message.
Especially when it's genuine.
Yeah, no, and you're right. You're right.
Mm.
And the messages wildly vary. I made a decision a couple of months ago that I started taking screenshots, and I had a group text with my mom, my aunt, and my sister. And again, just about everybody's been very supportive of this. There have been times, you have to embrace getting out of your comfort zone. And, you read a lot of things about positivity saying, hey, nothing great happens when you can't leave your comfort zone, generally speaking. Yeah. So I've been in some social situations in which I've had my kids and they just tense up and freak out. No, don't go over there and say anything to them. Let them enjoy their ice cream. So you have to step out. But going back, I started taking screenshots and sending them to my mom, my aunt, and my sister. And I said, look at these 3 messages tonight.
Yeah.
And look what people are saying.
That's cool.
Very
cool.
So there have been moments in which, and it runs the gamut, that I've been moved, and I'm a very emotional man, and I want to cry.
It's healthy. I think the most perfect day is if your emotions get to the point where you're laughing and you're crying.
Yeah.
That's the best to me.
Yeah.
I think you got to purge.
There are a lot of something I want to kind of put out there too, because the one thing that I haven't done yet, with a lot of people who follow me who are going to get an opportunity hopefully tonight to kind of see this, is I've never really put out there my why. Every once in a while, somebody through a direct message will ask, and I kind of open up a little bit, but
so the why is more than
that is correct. Is that I had twin boys, and I lost one at 3 months old, and
sorry.
Yeah, and I have more conversations with that little dude. So when you look sometimes to make a difference, and again where I was in my life, his identical twin brother now is 13. So I have a constant reminder of what his brother would have been, and I talk to my son all the time. And hopefully you're proud, buddy. So I have those emotional moments, and I think of him often. So when it comes to wanting to make a difference and leaving people differently, I'm trying to think what I read recently. When you talk to somebody, they may forget what you said, but they won't forget how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The emotional side of it. So that plays heavily into it with me.
Well, I've always, the first impression is very lasting. And your first impression with a lot of strangers is very positive.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very positive. To me, it's like there's certain levels. If you come across someone who's just in a really good mood, they're ready to share it with you and have it. But, I'm just curious of someone who is just like, I don't want to smile. I do not. They wouldn't even smile if they were on a jet ski, going, bouncing on still be frowning the whole time. But
Well, I'm trying to think what it was. I had a picture recently that I tried to get of a dog because I was sitting at a stoplight.
can you make a dog smile?
Well, not the dog, but the actual person driving the car, because it was in the lap of the driver. And as I turned and looked, I was actually, at first, I was trimming my nose hairs at a stoplight. And as I turned and looked, I'm like, that dog is looking at me. And the next thing you know, the owner's looking at me, and the owner's laughing. And then she rolled her window down. I said, you need to know that your dog was watching me trim my nose hairs. So I posted that because I want people to know it's okay. We live, and so, with that, when going back to the whole Wendy's episode and going to the drive-through, I kind of expand a little bit on that. As we go through our daily lives, no matter if you're at a red light and somebody's not moving fast enough, whether you're at Target, Starbucks, no matter where our lives take us, just don't take life that seriously. We don't know what people are going through. They may have lost a job. Somebody got cancer. You run through a litany of things that we experience in our lives. Somebody's paycheck was short. They can't make rent. It's all of it, man.
Every time you go to Wendy's now, do you remember that moment?
I do, and I actually
do you go to the same one?
I have. Well, not terribly, but I've gone back to that one multiple times, and she's not there anymore. But I have her face and her name kind of blazed on my brain, that she kind of started it. So
there you go. I have to tell you, one of my last experiences at Wendy's, drive-through, in the evening, hot evening, ordered a Frosty. They come to the...
Which they're so good.
They are so good. But as she's handing me the Frosty, evidently she put too much and it kind of dropped.
Yeah.
Well, she licked her hand, which was still holding, the Frosty. And I was like...
So she added some flavoring to your Frosty.
I was like, what should I do here? I'm like, just take the Frosty and... But that was my moment. It was like...
At the end of the day, and I'm a Catholic boy, so when I go get wine at communion, at the end of the day, I'm drinking behind the 38 people that went in front of me. So, so yeah, it's...
Well, you mentioned, when you started this, that you really didn't have, there's no, it's not per se a project that to complete. Mm-hmm. But in your mind, is there some type of an end game here? Well, what are you? I mean, what's the pinnacle?
I guess for me, the answer is no, unless
that we all look like the Joker.
That's right. We're all can only be that attractive, right? Well, I embrace the Joker's personality to some extent.
I do too.
His weirdness and silliness.
Great villain.
Yes, but he's slightly unattractive. But I think the people will determine that, because if it gets to a point where they don't want enough positivity, they don't want to embrace it anymore, you don't have the following, then it runs its course. But if you continue to grow this platform that has been embraced as being awesome, I guess the next steps for us is we're considering, okay, do we make a nonprofit? Because as it has grown, people are going, how do I get involved? How do I donate? And we're not...
You're not there yet?
We're not in that position to accept money, but we did do... I guess it was about a week and a half ago now, because of that movement and people asking how do they get involved, I said, okay, what we're going to do is a local random act of kindness. So I had several people want to get involved, and we picked a couple of locations where we felt like we could make a difference locally, and we went to the day before school started, JCPS had a clothing assistance drive. So we went there. We gave away, $50 to Kroger's to try to make a difference to a family, and then we went down to 28th and Broadway, baby, and went in there. And as we walked in, there was about 5 of us, and we literally walked.
You're in the jungle, baby.
We walked around the store, and we said, okay, who can we find in a small way to make a difference in their morning as they shop. And those are not easy decisions too, because we saw like 3 different moms with kids, and it's like, who do you want to decide to help them as they shop this morning?
Yeah.
And we gave another $50 to Kroger's to somebody there,
And those came from donations, or how did the money?
so it came from people who wanted to get involved, who used their own money
Okay.
to basically give it away
Pay
to a
forward,
stranger,
yeah.
man, just paying it forward.
Very cool. Very cool. I do think you're obviously onto something where, as a nonprofit, to benefit various organizations, Down whatever.
Yeah.
It's a very cool thing.
So as in any
Yeah.
nonprofit, you talk about where the future is headed. Look, if people want to get involved and are willing to put their time in to volunteer and pay it forward, and if you want to do bigger things, the hope is at some point companies want to embrace it. I had a local company that was talking about doing the same thing, but on a little bit bigger scale, to where maybe they had like 8 employees, and we would pick 8 locations around the city and just in a small way change someone's day.
Well, I'm gonna throw my name in the hat. I want to be there. I'm gonna recommend Louisville Metro Jail.
Okay. No, it's
No, it actually sounds funny.
well, but think about it. When people do get out of jail,
Yeah.
they need something.
They
man.
need- right.
They need something, and that's the thing that I tried to do too, is that as I've taken pictures with people, it runs the gamut, man. It's anyone and everybody.
Because
And
there's
I've
no
often-
bias.
no,
There's no
it's-
prejudice. It's
It's what I wanted to say at one point. It really comes down to, it doesn't matter if you're a conservative or a liberal. It doesn't matter, what aisle you fall on. I don't care if you're, you love gays or not. It's about people. It's about the love of people.
Right.
We can remove all of that garbage, because ultimately we're all human beings and wanting to change lives. I don't care whose life I'm changing if you need it, in that moment. So.
First respond. I'm thinking.
It is.
Yeah.
And I have other ideas dancing in my head of places around the city. When I end up losing my job last year, so I started it for a few weeks. I lost my job in the latter part of April. I didn't work for about a month, and then I made a decision to go be a rideshare driver, and I started driving for Lyft.
Yeah.
So not thinking that I would put myself in a position that it exposed me to the entire city, to every nook and cranny, and then having so many complete strangers step into my vehicle. And in a lot of cases, people are willing to open up, and you can share some things with them, and then next thing you know, you've made a little bit of a difference. So
Your personality as a yeah, that's to me that would be. Yeah.
It's everything. It goes from tour guide to therapist to relationship strategist. I mean, it's like,
I like it.
do I hate my job? It's you get 5 to 15 minutes in a lot of cases. If people open up enough.
Yeah.
Generally, at that point when they start opening up, my first response is, I'm not here to judge.
Yeah.
To try to make a difference. So, yeah.
My man Michael, Smile Project Louisville. Have you been on any of the local media channels, like news channels or anything?
I have not been on local media. I did. Daniel Sexton, who was with WHAS, who's one of the co-anchors in the morning on a TV program called Get Up.
Okay.
Caught wind of it, invited me down. So I went into the station and shook some hands and kind of expanded, in a short way about what I was doing, and made some impressions. And then Angie Fenton with Great Day Live is following me. So she has made some comments. And then I posted a picture. She asked for some pictures over, it was about 2 weeks ago over the weekend, so I posted a picture.
Wrap up.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And
Which is that's a cool idea.
it is. So she gave me a shout out.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Mentioned me and my daughter, and then said, "Hey, oh, by the way,
She's a good lady.
this is what Michael is doing." So, I guess in some level, look, I don't need to be on TV, but the reality of it is, if you want to extend your reach and make an impact, that you
How far are you willing to take?
Yeah.
This? Or wanting to?
I mean, look, the reality of it is, could this be big enough to where you've created something so special here that other people want to embrace it in other cities? So it's not a, far-fetched to think, well, there's Smile Project Nashville,
Right.
Smile Project Indy.
Key West.
Definitely Key West, right? I want to be the ambassador there, especially from December to...
Your summer or your winter
That's
residence.
right. Those winter months, I can make a difference down there.
Well, I'm in kind of closing with this project of yours. Again, not to get too political, but we're as divisive right now as a country as we've been in a long time. I'm just saying, what you're doing, not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. It's actually probably, pretty needed right now. So,
I think the impression I want to make on people when I look through social media is just the why. I understand we all have a different set of beliefs and things, but yet, again, as I stated earlier, we're all humans. We all have feelings. We all have emotions. We don't always agree, and that's what makes this country awesome, is we don't have to agree. We have the ability to have the freedom to speak and say whatever we want, but yet amongst our families, we have different sets of beliefs too.
right.
And I certainly have that, where half my family is a U of L fan, the other half is UK, half of it are Democrats, half of it are Republican. It's okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, love.
Love's
Let's
supposed to
love
conquer
and get
all.
along, baby.
Social media, where can people, is it just the Facebook page right now?
So I have the Facebook page. I'm on Instagram. I've got a large following on LinkedIn.
That's cool.
Near 5,000 people. So I'm
Oh, wow.
I'm developing a pretty large footprint professionally on LinkedIn and making a difference. So
I'll tell you what, for one thing, your personality lends to this very well. You're not a dull guy. You're actually pretty cheery. Is he ever hit in bad moods? I mean, what's going on here?
For about 3.5 seconds.
Really? 3.5 seconds?
I mean, I'm a human being too, but yeah,
no,
it's
human beings do not get in bad moods for only 3.5 seconds. You're alien, and we're going to go there in a minute.
No,
Again,
I think that I try to find happiness in a lot of the small things in life. It's like last night, just smoking a cigar. I was in the moment, listening to music, and I'm like, I'm happy.
Yeah.
No matter what else is going on in my life.
Some of this age, maybe. I mean, this is a milestone. You just had a milestone
Probably.
over the weekend.
Probably. Again, we all go through these shitstorms.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how we manage how big the turds are as they're coming, and how we react to them. And some find bigger turds than others. I've had my share. That's okay.
Been there, done that.
That's right.
We need to hang out more.
I think we're
often.
going to make that happen.
We definitely will.
Yeah.
You were here last week when I was doing my recordings, and we got talking offline on some things. You've got a very cool side, a personal side of you, going to your father.
My father. Yeah.
Would you share everybody what was your father? Your father was.
So my father was an FBI agent, not 32 years, but he worked for the FBI for 32 years.
Right.
I'm going to say 24 or 25 of those years, he was an FBI agent. So,
and while he was an FBI agent, the FBI director at that time
that's
was
correct. J Edgar Hoover.
J Edgar.
He obviously started the FBI in, I don't know, what was it, 40s or
In the 40s,
30s,
yeah.
40s. And So
And remain until, I want to say the 70s,
he
right?
he died in early '72.
So I think he was the director.
And actually,
of
after
the
our conversation last week, I had to go look it up because
Yeah.
I wanted to know definitively when he passed away. So it was early 72.
And there's something kind of cool about that, too.
It is. So I actually have, my father received a signed letter from J Edgar Hoover congratulating him on the birth of his first son. It falls under that category of shit you can't make up.
You're not going to be able to see this, right? But I am looking at the letter. It is stamped John Edgar Hoover, director. I guess that's the FBI logo or
Yeah, their seal.
Yeah, their seal. Federal Bureau of Investigation, United States Department of Justice, Washington, D.C., August 25th, 1969. Addressed to James Michael Ray.
I'm a junior and my father, yeah.
Who's with the FBI. Mr. Ray, I would like to extend to Mrs. Ray and you my hearty congratulations on the birth of your son, James Michael Jr. May I wish for your little boy a life that is blessed with good health and happiness. Sincerely,
J. Edgar Hoover.
This is fucking amazing. Good God. I mean, and when you first told me about it, you kind of almost, you downplayed it like it was kind of just, it's just a letter. But it's not just a letter.
No, it's something that obviously my father always took pride in what he did.
Yeah.
For a living, it meant a lot to him. And for a long period of my life, I knew the letter existed, but I did not physically have possession of the letter. My father did. And I want to say maybe about 10 years ago, I finally actually got the letter. And I think you asked me last week, and I don't know. My mom had no clue because I asked her. And one of the reasons why I went back to see if my other two sisters, I'm the oldest of 7 kids, if they got letters, is that I knew in my heart that it's possible my second sister, who was born 2 years later, did.
Okay.
But my sister after that was a year later, and she was born after he had died. So I was
So
like,
we knew
my
that was
sister
gonna happen.
Stephanie, you're out. You didn't get one.
Yeah.
So
But you're the only one.
I don't know.
Oh, for
I
sure.
think that I am, but I can't say that definitively. No.
Yeah.
No.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, it's badass. It's
And let's go back to your dad. Your dad was, you said, 25 years of actual FBI work, but 30 involving.
So yeah, the way it worked back then, my parents were both born and raised in Louisville. My father graduated from DeSales in '64, I think it was, and then in '66, as he was going to IUS pursuing his criminal justice degree, he became a clerk. With the FBI,
Yeah.
and that's basically kind of how it worked back then. Is that you could assume part-time positions, go working for them, and then in 1974, he then went to the academy.
Wow.
Went to Quantico. I was born in Louisville, and then in '75, he got his first assignment. excuse me, as an agent, and we moved to Cleveland, Ohio. So from '75 through 1987. I was in Cleveland until I made a decision to come back here to the University of Louisville.
Right.
So my parents were still up there at that point.
So the college years for you.
So my college years for me, were down here, and my father was still, an agent up in Cleveland until 92, 93. Right around the time, it literally was like a collision course. I was graduating from U of L. And my father, after doing his 17, 18-year tour in Cleveland, wanted to get back home where he was from. Right. So most of my family ended up moving back. So then I made a decision to stay here. So and look, if you're looking at something and laughing, I need to be in on it. I need to know what's funny too.
All right.
So I ended up staying here. So I've been, I went home during the summers and things, but I really, when people ask me how long, I've lived here more than half my life. It's the last, stints near 30 years.
I'm not picking this up. Okay. Well, she bring it. I've got some other questions to throw at you, but she's just put the company car. You know what that?
Oh, the company car. Yes. So it's funny as I spoke to you last week and then she had some people over for my birthday last Thursday night, and of course my mom, and we were talking about the stories, and my mom's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, and I looked at my mom and said, well, Mom, that's bullshit, because I know for a fact. So obviously when the federal government arrests you, if you have narcotics or it's used in a crime, they can seize your assets and your property.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember exactly, so I'm going back now to probably 86. I would guess I was about 17, maybe a junior in high school. The FBI had seized like a late 70s Corvette, black T-tops, gorgeous white leather. So,
where was this, in Cleveland?
So this in Cleveland.
Okay.
So when they seized property, it wasn't uncommon that then their company cars could become property that they had seized, in this case automobiles. So for the better part of what I remember was 3 or 4 months, my dad was driving home as an FBI agent in this badass Corvette. So of course I'm a 17-year-old young man.
Very impressionable.
And one of my closest friends in high school was like, dude, we have got to get out and drive that thing. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's no way in hell. But hell at that moment wasn't frozen, and
But was it per se a company car, or was it?
No! So when I say company car, so again, the Bureau had cars.
Yeah, that.
And look, back then, in most cases, my dad may have driven home a '78 Crown Vic, or
Right.
Caprice Classic, whatever the cop cars were back in the day. So they then got the opportunity to drive those vehicles. So we one evening around midnight made the decision, knowing that we honestly, they may have never found our bodies if we got caught.
Right on.
But we put it in neutral. And as I was in the car seat, my buddy pushed it out, and we pushed it down about maybe 3 or 4 houses, fired it up, and drove around the neighborhood for about a half an hour.
Undetected.
Undetected, thankfully.
Wow.
Knocked out the T-tops, drove around the neighborhood on a summer night, and thankfully we took advantage of that opportunity, because I don't think it was too long afterwards his partner was driving it, and there was a stretch in Cleveland called Dead Man's Curve, to where on the east side of downtown, Interstate 90 had an area where you literally had to slow down to about 10, 15 miles an hour on the interstate, because it was a complete 90-degree angle that you actually turned your vehicle, and he lost control of the vehicle and totaled it.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Your dad?
Not my dad. No,
Oh.
my dad's partner.
Oh,
my dad's partner
okay.
did. My dad's partner did. So,
Wow.
and then of course it took. My father retired in it was 98 or 99, and that's when you feel like at that moment you can start talking. As an adult, and his career was over, decisions you've made.
You shared
I ended up sharing a story with him.
and his reaction.
How to beat your ass. He
You
always had a thing
one-upped
too.
the FBI guy.
Oh yeah, but whenever you got in trouble as a kid, it he sat just like in this setting and looked across from you, and he usually opened the interrogation with, "The truth will set you free." So you immediately wanted to embrace the truth, because you knew your ass would be handed to you if you lied to him, because generally he already knew the truth. Like the FBI, he always said too, when we show up, son, you're fucked.
Yeah.
We got you. Yeah. So no, he always had that innate ability to already know, and you couldn't deceive him. So
with the FBI, with the government, there's always these great questions / false truths, conspiracies that are out there. And I'm going to throw some things at you, and I want to just see, as a son of an FBI agent, would you know the answers to some of these? Or did any of these kind of come to light
Sure.
as you?
I will tell you, and I'm going to answer your questions, that my father at times would answer that, in which if he didn't know, he would give his honest government FBI opinion.
Yeah. But if he did know,
And
but he
his
couldn't
instincts.
tell you,
And yeah,
could he? Was there a different response?
So what do you
If
wanna know?
Did your dad? If you knew that your dad knew something, but told you something different, would you know that was the case?
most of those stories, depending on the timing of what you may or may not ask,
Okay.
would have been as a child or as a teenager. I mean, we did have conversations after he retired, and of course, a lot of the stories were more specific to individual cases that he may not have been able to talk about 20 years before
What
about specifics.
What
but,
type of cases was he handling at that time?
You know, it ran the gamut, and I will tell you a lot of times too. I can remember as a kid, his emotions would change depending on what he was working on. So I can vividly remember in the 70s him working pirating, and that was pirating both of movies and music. He worked heavily with country music in Nashville. It went into, he worked narcotics. That was probably the hardest work my father ever did, was working narcotics in the 80s. When it was a massive explosion in this country. Auto theft, white-collar crime. You know, again, my dad, organized crime. You know, he was also, which was interesting at a time in this country, it was pre-really internet and pre-9/11.
Right.
You know, retiring before 2000, you didn't really have the explosion of the internet yet, and you didn't have 9/11 happen. So the terrorism and cybercrime, he never touched on, but he did see heavy amounts of organized crime in Cleveland. You know, you wouldn't think that, but there was a heavy presence of the Irish mob in Cleveland.
Okay. JFK.
He would have said the government was involved.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you
the
shitting
The government
me?
was involved.
Yeah.
I'm
You
dead
know what
serious.
you're saying?
Look, I'm not trying to say it's 100% known fact, but you take somebody on the inside, the government had involvement. Yeah. Yeah.
What was that? Did I just see a government car zoom by?
They're on to me.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, this is pre-recorded. We'll be posting it later.
Yeah, later. And you'll be somewhere.
But I don't know. Siri's around, so I'm sure there's some element that's hurt me.
I think a lot of, the conspiracy is the government was involved.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. There can't be the single shooter.
No, and it's almost the same way when you want to ask me about Martin Luther King Jr.
That was my next one.
There was an element of the government that wanted him gone, unfortunately.
Yeah. So MLK.
He would tell you, yeah, the government had a hand in it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Aliens.
It's something we never talked about because the FBI, from that perspective, really not, didn't get involved. The FBI is about crossing state lines. So that would have been more. And he did at times talk about the other government agencies. He worked at times, depending on what he did closely with the DEA when he worked with narcotics. Didn't speak much of the CIA. Worked a lot with the local authorities. When he came to Louisville in '93, they started something here locally called the Louisville Fugitive Crime Task Force. And there was an entity with each represented agency. So the FBI had one liaison, that was my father. The U.S. Marshals had one. The Sheriff's Office had one. LMPD had one. So they collectively worked together to go find fugitives.
Probably safe to say he did not work on the X-Files.
No. But he only, again, a lot of times we see by TV, we're fascinated with guns and thinking there's shootouts and all that. And he only drew his gun one time.
Really?
One time in the late 70s. He didn't shoot, but they took fire. And he said he came
MLK?
with it. He came. Unfortunately, MLK was long gone. But they drew fire. And one impression he always he left me with that is that, son, remember, most gunfights happen at incredibly close range.
Yeah.
You're reacting to people within 6, 8, 10 feet. And he happened to be in downtown Cleveland and almost lost his life.
Is there a shadow government? Is there a government within the government? Because here's the thing. What was it? Rumsfeld, right before 9/11, he came out and acknowledged that there was like trillions of dollars. I want to say 20, some crazy amount that the government couldn't account for.
Sure.
And all these conspiracy theorists think that a lot of this money is being put into black ops, that these dark shadow operations, the military within the military. What was the famous, Eisenhower? I don't know if you know this. When he left off, I think it was Eisenhower.
Well, Eisenhower was in the mid-50s.
Okay, no, here's where I'm going with it. When he left office.
He was around with the Korean conflict, Korean War.
When his final speech to America when he left office was to be, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, is that there's this shadowy operation, which is, it was the military. It was the military within the military. That there's an agenda that's, he's telling, basically.
I never had those conversations with my father, but I would tell you from how well I knew and understood my father, I would think he would say it exists. He has seen enough, my father got to a point with the FBI, the impression I got, his first 25 years or so were great, but it started to change. You're getting into the mid to late 90s now, so and as it changed, when you get to your early 50s with that much service, you don't buy into some of the things that are going on. My father was one of the hardest working men I've ever known, a man of incredibly high integrity and honesty.
Right.
So in seeing and hearing some of those things, and I know from time, and again, stuff after his career, he spoke of nothing crazy, but some corruptness. It exists at any level of law enforcement, so he could not understand corruptness. But again, even though we didn't have those discussions, I would think he knew that element existed at some higher level.
What would he have said about 9/11? Was it an inside job?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to know. The feelings and emotions that wrap around that event.
It's horrific. It's...
Again, but as much intel as this country has, it's hard to think that we didn't know something, man. I don't want to think that. A lot of innocent lives and things were lost. But we never had discussions about, no 9/11, no aliens, a lot about drugs and, working with informants and.
God, I wish I knew you growing up. We could have really.
Especially at the time where I had that Betamax.
That's cool. Wow. I'm trying to anything else. I think it maybe takes care of my conspiracy questions.
I don't know. Yeah, I was going to say. I think we run the gamut a little bit. I don't know what else exists, but I buy into some of that stuff.
Well, let's staying with the whole alien / UFO thing. The government has released video of radar footage from 2004 and then 2015 or 17 of them tracking these objects. And I've always felt, as someone who believes in that, is that it's all about the technology. It's not.
Oh, most certainly.
It's not so much, this little 3-foot gray alien. It's about getting hold of technology. Because I think whenever someone gets
and that somewhere else in this galaxy, somebody has technology more advanced than us. So we, as a society, would rather have it than China or Russia or
Oh, yeah.
wherever the case might
Right.
be.
Because I
Yeah.
think in some cases, if you have the technology and you understand it, you can recreate it, re-engineer it. You might win. I mean, at that point, you might be just the most
Well,
powerful.
I think the reality with where we live in this country, it was never about enforcing our superiority. It was about protecting it. So if we had to flex, we could flex.
Right.
You know, we weren't always the first ones in there and trying to Austin Powers, world domination, Dr. Evil. It wasn't about
1 million. 1 billion.
we didn't need to occupy the rest of Mother Earth. We were happy with the 350 million people we had carved out here in North America.
Right.
So,
That was then.
That was then, yes.
This is now, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, don't talk about it a whole lot, but, the divine intervention and faith side and God, I think, having a higher power, I'd like to think on some level all human beings, or most human beings are good and believe in good, so.
I root for that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
All right, this last part is my little rapid fire.
Yeah.
It's I call a round of shots.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
But this is going to get cool.
First concert you attended?
Journey in Cleveland, 1986.
86. So that was Steve Perry.
It was Steve Perry.
Yeah.
Yeah. At Richfield Coliseum. Yeah, I remember it well.
Don't Stop Believing.
That's right.
Yeah.
I still believe.
You still believe. If you were stuck in an elevator with a celebrity, who would it be?
Jim Carrey.
He's one of my favorites.
And this just came up in my memories because I posted, and of course, Facebook will remind you. 5 years ago, I would have said Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And
He
I
just
know Jim
recently-
Carrey has gotten a little weird, but again, I'm all
we're getting
about.
a little older. And actually, Robin Williams, I want to say, it's like within the last month, it's like been 5 years.
It's been 5 years. Yeah. So I guess him because it's all about if I'm in an elevator, I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to laugh. We're going to smile. We're going to get weird.
Those two would kill it. They would be two of my. They're two of my all-time favorite.
And maybe not him. Maybe Don Rickles. Don Rickles had some old ass humor that was really
old, and it was brutal too.
He'd tear into you. He loved you and just
Those roasts that they
yeah.
used to do back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
The ability to turn off evil. Yeah. Love. Love, man. You can't then kill, hurt, if you have nothing but love and you can't embrace evil, then we wouldn't be all about world domination. So the ability, if I touched another human being, immediate change. Yeah, they're hard. I guess that's that element of the Grinch, to when the latter part of the movie, all of a sudden he realizes he has a heart and he sees love. So it's we all find love.
I like that. Pizza fan?
Die Hard.
What is Michael's perfect pizza topping?
Perfect pizza topping.
Yeah, give me your. You order.
Probably the go-to is the sausage and pepperoni. I'm a meat dude.
It's so simple though.
It is. It is. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I like it about 6 different ways, but I guess I like my pizza like my moods, which is like music.
Right.
Depending on what kind of music you listen to,
Fair.
is your mood,
There you
and it can change like anything. And I didn't think until about 5 years ago I would ever eat pineapple on a pizza, but it's awesome.
So you say.
Yeah. But I was one of those people at one time going, "That's gross," but yeah. So it's all mood.
Do you have any scars?
I do have one scar.
Give me the weirdest scar story. Or
God, the weirdest scar. So I'm trying to think. I have. Okay. You said the weirdest, and you're gonna get it now.
Bring it.
Because Because I'd like to say, so I'm going to mention two, but I'm going to go to the weirdest. So the first one I have about a 6-inch scar on my stomach that in 2012, I found out I had a perforated colon due to having diverticulitis.
Oh, shit.
So when I'm at the pool now, I often say, look, this is where Dad got shanked. So I like to say I got shanked. But actually,
in the shower.
In the shower.
In the cell.
But the craziest scar story that I have, and I won't forget, it was in 2000. And I am a giant Metallica fan. Seen them about 6 times in concert, even most recently in March when they came here, the biggest crowd ever in Yum.
Mm-hmm.
But I was getting ready to go to the Derby. And it was that morning. I had some friends coming in from out of town, and we had already parked the kids over at the in-laws, and we were getting hyped up. And it was so loud, I swore I heard a knock at the front door. So I went down to the front door, I opened it, and there's nobody. So in my excitement that, again, I'm getting ready to leave for the Derby, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. As I'm running down the foyer, I don't know why at that point a 30-some-odd-year-old man needs to leap from the hardwood to the carpet, but I did. And as I leapt, I jumped too high, and my head gashed on the overhang, and I took 8 stitches. So I found myself in the ER for 3 hours on Derby morning getting stitches. But yes, I still wore the hat and made it to the Derby. And then saw Fusaichi Pegasus. But my cool moment there was I'm a huge Blues Brothers fan.
Yeah.
And I ran into Dan Aykroyd and he signed my program. So it was worth it. But yeah.
But
I have a scar.
You have a scar.
I have a scar from it, yeah.
Check it. Google Dan Aykroyd and his passion for UFOs. Aliens, by the way.
I have heard that.
Yeah, I just say it. All right. We all come back full circle. Pet peeve. You got to have something that just freaking drives you crazy. Mr. Smiley Face.
Pet peeve. Smelly people. And I've been around a few here recently too. I guess some of it is.
I mean, it's just so hot and humid lately,
Yeah.
you can't help it.
And one other thing that I learned from my father, I am that guy that unfortunately embraces too much cologne. My dad was a huge cologne wearer. He got it from my grandfather. My grandfather was the Old Spice. My dad was the Stetson Brute guy. I got it. So I always say I'd rather smell too good than too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, people who just can't wear Dio. It's not about the cologne, man.
No.
But
if it beats the alternative, yeah. So
no.
if you had access to a time machine and you can go anywhere in the past to observe, you're not changing the past, we're changing the future, or past. Where would you go?
And I know exactly where I'd go because I've thought of this. I would want to go somewhere probably in the 30s or 40s. Because I think that to some extent we lived much simpler lives.
Yeah, totally.
You know, not that things were easy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that at all. But the simplicity around being home every night and family meant something. Relationships meant everything.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the distractions really of
Social
TV.
media,
So
all
all
that
of
shit.
it.
Yeah.
So it was all about family and friends.
Could you imagine in the 30s, people sitting not
maybe post prohibition, because I'd still want to
you still want
I'd still want to enjoy in a cocktail,
Partake.
but
All right, these last 3 questions I'm going to throw at you are what I consider the 3 most important questions in the world. The first two are yes or no.
okay.
The last one, I want an answer in 2 sentences or less.
Okay.
Is there a God?
Most certainly, yes.
1. 2, are we alone in the universe?
We are not.
3, what happens when we die?
I believe we're judged. We're judged, and the reality of it is, I think heaven and hell are real. I'm a Catholic man, and we believe in purgatory. Mom, hopefully at this point you're not listening, but I'm undecided on the purgatory piece.
No, that's fair.
you know. But yeah, there's heaven or hell.
That's a good answer.
So, and that just goes back to my son, and I think he's in heaven. And if you embrace eternity, if you do believe in that, eternity is a long time. So,
Long time.
yeah.
Michael, my friend. Cheers.
Cheers
Thanks
on
so
the
much
Aguita.
thanks for hanging. This is good stuff. And we'll do it again because I'm very I'm into this project, Smile Project Louisville. It's just bleeds love, you know,
Yeah.
and cheers and you know and
Well, I must say that I'm a man of
yeah, I'm good.
humility, and I was highly flattered and moved with emotions when you reached out to me wanting to but seriously, again, I think praise is needed when praise is well, you know, so you needed to know that I am grateful.
Well,
I'm very grateful you having me. Yeah, thank you.
I believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's important. And again, I think in this day and age right now, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thanks, brother.
Cheers,
I appreciate it, man. Until we meet again, baby.
yeah, we'll do it again.
Wonder Twins, activate.
Activate.